Here's the question. Is this unchristian?
To send them back.
Is this unchristian to deport them back? Is it unchristian to not open our doors and to help all these people? Because, they all have hardship. They all have difficulty. It's all been challenging for them, and it's challenging in their other places. Right?
Yeah, I guess people just think that there is just an unlimited amount, because we're America, there's an unlimited amount of resources. So we could just take everyone in the whole world.
Yeah.
Hey friends, what's up? This is Tanner Cartwright. I'm here with Dorris. This is Snake on the Table. What we got?
Should Christians support mass deportations? And I want to include in that just ICE.
Mass deportations of who?
Of illegal immigrants. And specifically. I know there's a broader topic here just about immigration. And then we may touch on that a little bit. And then this obviously gets into nationhood, and it possibly even touches into kinism.
Sure. And those are things we need to talk about.
Yeah, but I want to try to keep those separate and talk about should Christians support mass deportations. And
that's basically a question of should we enforce the law?
Yeah, okay. You've called for even a moratorium on all immigration, legal and illegal.
Yeah, and like you said, that may be a different episode in and of itself. But my argument would be that we need to send everyone back who is here illegally.
100%.
That they are breaking U.S. law, and allowing them to stay not only is showing a complete, disrespect for the laws of this land, but it's also a incredible tax burden.
Yeah.
Just see that FEMA, how much money they spent housing illegal immigrants in hotels in California.
It's unbelievable.
It's insane. It's unbelievable.
Well, even the way you said that just kind of sets that off. How much FEMA is doing that? No, how much you're doing that?
How much we spend?
How much I'm spending on that kind of stuff? Frankly, I'm done. If we were auditing my budget in my house.
Bro.
And I would literally, if I didn't have control of my spending, and my wife is just over there spending my money that we've made, and she contributes to that too. So the money that's coming into our household, if it's just being frivolously spent, and I don't know where it's at. We have what's the YNAB or something like that we use. Basically, it's a system where you gotta know exactly where every dollar goes. And right now, as Americans, we don't know where every dollar goes, and that's a problem. And so
we don't know where every billion goes. Like forget dollars.
I am so in favor of stopping every dollar that is being spent, especially outside of our country. Stop it right now.
Yeah, everything. Including Israel.
Even stuff that I know is good. Even though I think it's okay, I want to
stop it. All be stopped and audited.
I want to audit it. I want to evaluate it.
100%.
And really, it comes down to, should we be spending money on condoms in Gaza versus helping hurricane victims in North Carolina?
It's insane.
It's insane. Okay,
yeah.
So that's a financial standpoint.
It would be like if my children were hungry and I was buying Nike shoes for kids in Nigeria.
Or it's like your children are hungry and you're spending money on condoms for people in Gaza. Unbelievable program. I don't know what on earth we have anything to do with that.
Yeah. Well, and I can guarantee you that those condoms probably ended up costing us like $20 a pop.
Yeah. All right. That's unbelievable. So as an American, I just want to suggest to you that you should be angry.
Yeah, we're off topic a little bit.
As Doge goes through and figures this stuff out, you should be angry, and we should, and I wonder how quickly we could right our deficit if we just stopped spending.
Well, frankly, I mean, we're off topic, but I remember in 2016 with an interview with Ted Cruz and somebody asked him about our debt. And he was like, guys, our debt's not the problem. Our spending is the problem.
Yeah.
And he just went through and laid it out real quick. And I was just remember that was a mind-blowing. I was like, whoa. Because he was literally just like, if we cut spending, our debt immediately quits being a problem.
I don't know how we got to this topic, but it's all tied together.
Got fired up.
So mass deportation. So we have an influx of immigrants, and these are people that are not coming to be an American. So this morning I posted about my lineage.
Yep.
And Martin Leibniz Seidner. And I know you can go back to Michael
Matthew Cartwright.
Yeah, Matthew Cartwright. And these are men that came into the United States. Well, it wasn't the United States; it was the colonies before we were a nation.
Yep.
And they renounced their citizenship. They came to be an American. They came to be frontiermen. They came to be pioneers and settlers of rugged and wilderness terrain to make this a nation.
Yep.
And then they stood opposed to Britain and the overreaches of Britain trying to tax us without representation and all that kind of stuff. And so these men, they signed documents to say, we are Americans.
Yeah.
And
originally, before Britain was overreaching, many of them, like Matthew Cartwright, would have considered himself a British subject.
Before, yeah.
Going to a colony that was under the authority of Britain.
Right. And then so to reject that and to say, no, we're going to now be a nation. So that's formative in that. And then legal immigrants that have come in, they renounce their citizenship to their prior nation. They are now Americans. They want to adopt American culture. They want to settle in and become American, and which is, part of our heritage is our diversity and those kind of things. But when you talk about an illegal immigrant, they're not coming to be Americans. In fact, it just blows my mind, the protests that we're seeing on social media of people with Mexican flags protesting our you better burn that Mexican flag. You just really revealed your card to us.
Exactly.
I don't want you in my nation if you don't want to be a part of my nation.
Yep.
So as we think about nationhood and assimilation in Israel, you could become an Israelite, but you became an Israelite. You were assimilated into the culture. You adopted. You took their God as your God, and you became. You weren't trying to subversively change
no longer considered herself a Moabite.
Correct.
She was completely embracing being an Israelite.
Yeah. So it's a danger to our nation that illegal immigrants are coming in subversively. Now, some of those illegal immigrants are coming in with hardship that they may have faced, but there is a legal path to do that.
You cannot apply for asylum inside the U.S. You apply for it, or immigration, outside, or whatever that you're applying for. You apply for it outside at an embassy.
But here's the question: is this unchristian?
To send them back.
Is this unchristian to deport them back? Is it unchristian to not open our doors and to help all these people, because they all have hardship, they all have difficulty. It's all been challenging for them, and it's challenging in their other places. Right?
Yeah, I guess people just think that there is just an unlimited amount, because we're America. There's an unlimited amount of resources, so we could just take everyone in the whole world.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we just make everyone in the whole world a U.S. citizen overnight and everybody be fed? Right? This is not how it works. So what's happening is it would be like if I sign up to adopt a child and they bring me 20. And I'm like, well, I can't handle 20. Oh, you just want these. Oh,
you're not a Christian.
Hate children.
You hate children because
you don't want to take care of children. And I'm like, I've got 7 of my own. I'm willing to adopt 1. I can't take 20.
Yeah.
Or else I'm not going to be able to take care of any of them.
Let's back up just a little bit. Let's say you're in the adoption process, and you're evaluated. If you go into that process, your home is evaluated. You're audited financially, everything. Yep. What if in that audit it's revealed that you don't have the money?
Or I'm not taking care of my own kids.
You're not taking care of your own kids. You're not taking care of anything right now. Would even an objective organization, allow you to adopt a child?
They wouldn't allow me to.
And yet, here in America, we don't even take care of our own. Yep. And we're spending money. This is why it's related. We're spending so much money outside of us. We are not in a healthy position to take in everybody right now. This is very much like the airplane analogy where you're flying, and when the mask descends, you got to put your mask on first before you put your mask on anyone people else. Yep. Because you've got to be in a position where you're not going to lose consciousness. You're going to be able to help somebody else. And I want to argue that America is not in a position right now, and hasn't for a long time, to be able to take the world's needy the way that it's happening.
Yep.
So in order to be a good steward of our resources and to help people better, we need to be in a better place. And so that's why I say we cut off all immigration, and we get rid of all the illegal immigrants right now. Let's get healthy, and then let's have a thoughtful policy about how you can, outside of our country, if you want to assimilate into it.
So, and there's a lot to that, and I think that's probably a different episode. How do we think through legal immigration and assimilation? But my argument would be simply all the illegals out, every single one of them, not one illegal left in this whole country from sea to shining sea. And then I think there needs to be a moratorium on legal immigration for about 100 years.
Yeah, it's an arbitrary. It's an arbitrary amount.
It is. Well, it's somewhat arbitrary, but I think that it would take about 3 generations for us to regain some cultural unity.
Yeah.
So some semblance of societal trust again. Because when you have people speaking different languages from all over the world with different cultures and different backgrounds and different heritage and different religions and all these things, you cannot have social cohesion. And this is where we find ourselves. We do not have social cohesion. And so we are literally multiple nations within a empire. It's basically what the U.S. is.
Yeah.
And so if we are going to recapture being a nation, I think it would take several generations. That's why I say 100 years. It would take several generations, full generations, for us to regain some social cohesion of an identity of who we are as Americans.
Yeah.
So obviously it's arbitrary. People can make different arguments and whatnot, but I think that it makes sense to me. And then revisiting that, okay, now that we have social cohesion and identity as Americans, and somewhat, obviously there's differences, but somewhat of a shared, identity as a people. Now, how do we assimilate people and allow people in?
We lose sight of the illegal side of the immigration on this. If you are willing to break the laws of the nation that you've entered, you have no respect.
You don't respect that nation.
You do not respect them. And it's analogous to if somebody breaks into my home and now I'm forced to set up a room for them.
Yep.
No, you broke into my home. I'm calling the police. You're being removed from my home. I don't care about your great need for why you broke into my home in the middle of the night. That's a separate issue. First, there's a legal issue that it has to be resolved. And so you're going to be extracted from my home.
Yep.
And then we can deal compassionately with you or whatever, but you can't illegally come into my house, break into my home.
Well, and I frankly think that we do share some blame as a nation, because it would be like me just leaving the doors open on my house.
Yeah.
Obviously, homeless people are going to just come in. Like if we just said, everybody, we open the doors and let everybody come in, and we don't set up any barriers. They're wrong. They're in the wrong, and I have the right to kick them out. Yeah. But I've caused some of the problem by not shutting down my borders, by not being strict on my own laws. We haven't upheld our own laws.
Yeah, but we also have a sovereign agreement with Canada and Mexico that we maintain this. They're allowing migrants to come through Mexico to come in.
And we've allowed them to get away with it.
Yeah, well, under prior administration.
Exactly, which hopefully, Lord willing, that's all going to change.
And now y'all know why we were like, you got to vote for Trump.
You got to vote for Trump.
Are you kidding me?
Have we ever been so right?
All right, so let's balance this, though, with the reality that God, he moves nations around. He changes the borders. He's the one who orchestrates. And so providentially, there have been an influx of people. So let's think about Shelbyville. We've talked about planting a Spanish church in our area. Bluntly, the need for a Spanish church is problematic, but it's kind of where we're at. And we have legal and citizens that live in Shelby County that are speak Spanish, and that's their first language. Should they be allowed to worship? I would argue that if we planted a church amongst the Spanish-speaking people, that simultaneously we're trying to help them become more American. So we're teaching them English if they need English. We want them to be part of the culture and not always just autonomous.
Yeah,
we don't want like a Dearborn, Michigan, where it's literally a nation state, effectively Islamic nation state. They have a different religion, different, what's the lady from Minneapolis who's a representative? Muslim representative.
Oh,
This stuff.
Send her back.
Yeah, she needs to go back. She's more loyal to her ethnicity in Somalia
she's Somali,
than she is to America.
Yeah.
That's problematic.
Very
She
problematic.
doesn't believe in the ideals.
At that point, you're a foreign agent.
You are a foreign actor, an agent in her nation.
Yeah. So let's think about this. So we've got a large population of Hispanic in Shelbyville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So the civil government is going to say whether they get to stay or leave. I don't have a say
as
in
a
that.
churchman, as a pastor.
As a pastor,
yeah,
it's not my call. I have my opinions.
I'm going to share the gospel with you, whether you're legal
so
or illegal.
is thinking about starting a Hispanic church, whether you share the gospel and you do the work in the Spanish community and they get sent back, or they're allowed to stay, however that shakes down. You've shared the gospel. You have shepherded them to the best of your ability. You've tried to help promote spiritual well-being among this community, and they're going to take that back to Mexico. And that can do only good things. Yeah. Or El Salvador or Honduras or wherever they're from.
Yeah.
That they're going to take that back there.
Yeah.
So there's no loss.
Yeah. As a pastor, if you found out that you had illegal immigrants in your church, what would you do?
So at this point,
would you call it ICE?
Well, if the government, if let's put it this way, so if the government has said that we are to report, then I think you do. But at this point, I have not been given a command to report.
Yeah,
anyone.
I haven't really thought through this. I think we need to be thoughtful. What I don't want to ever see is that. Any kind of Spanish ministry have somehow we're trying to create a refuge and we're hiding people and all that kind of stuff.
We can't do that.
I am not going to break the laws of my land, and I don't want
that would be like hiding homeless people in your basement that are stealing from local shops.
Yeah, this is not analogous to Hitler in Germany and what's happened in the Netherlands or any of that stuff. We got to hide people or any of that kind of stuff. If you're come into our nation illegally, you've got to deal with the legal issue there.
Yep.
Because we do have borders and we have national identity for a reason.
Yep.
If you've come in here and you're still more loyal to Guatemala than you are to America, that's a problem.
My issue as a pastor, I'm not going to be rounding people up and tricking them to come to a prayer meeting so that ICE can raid.
Of course not. No,
what I'm going to be doing is going to the individuals and saying, brother, you got to turn yourself in.
Yeah.
You've got to turn yourself in and I will help you. You're going to get moved back to Mexico most likely. I will try to help make connections down there for you with other Christians. I'm willing to come down there and help you plant a church down there. We'll do things, whatever we can do to help you thrive back in your home. But you have to obey the laws. In the same way that if there's a brother in my church that has broken the law, I'm going to go to him and say, brother, you got to turn yourself in.
You got to confess. You got to go forward.
You've got to turn yourself in and do right by the law.
Yeah.
And so I am not, unless my government is slaughtering people or literally, doing wicked things. Deporting people is not wicked.
Yeah.
Sending them back home and maintaining and upholding our laws is not wicked.
Yeah.
So I have a responsibility as a citizen, as a pastor, brother, you have to turn yourself in. Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
And if you refuse and continue to break the law, then at some point I'm going to, with your knowledge, I'm going to call and turn you in. At some point.
Yeah. Hopefully wouldn't have to get
wouldn't come to that.
Wouldn't have to get to that. I'm trying to think, I don't know if I should try to find it here, but here recently I did a post about a particular verse that's going to be used to manipulate people into... do you remember what I'm talking about? Weeping with those who weep. Sorry, I may cut a pause out of here in our section, but
I don't remember
I want to find this.
Where'd you post it?
Sadly, I post too much, and so it's going to be pretty deep here.
Was this Twitter?
Yeah, just hold still, and then I'll cut this section out, and I'll find it here. All right, so here it was. I just posted, I said, let's go ahead and address a verse that will be used to manipulate Christians into siding with criminal illegal aliens, especially when the news starts coming of genuine heartache caused by deportation. And here's the verse. Proverbs 21:13 says, He who shuts his ear to the cry of the poor will also cry himself and not be answered. I think that's a verse that is being used and will be used to manipulate Christians, because it's calling for some personal compassion. And you're just so callous, bro.
Yeah.
You're just so callous because, this man is being deported and he's got a wife and children, and now they're all have to be deported. A whole family is being kicked out of our nation right now.
Yeah. So that it goes back to the order of Morris, ordered loves.
Yeah.
Are we closing our heart because we're not, helping or feeding or taking care of, starving children in China or, Australia, or you name it. There's places all over the world where there's people we're not taking care of. So does that mean we're callous? Well, no, I have a responsibility to a certain people, and the people that are, does that mean that I can allow people to just invade my country?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. What it means is we send them all back, and then we help where we can, but we take care of our people first.
Yeah.
I take care of my family first. Then, if I can, I send money to help with other, children and other needs. And there's an organization that me and my wife support that takes care of children in Africa, that helps them educated. And the reason I support that specific, mission is because I've been there. I literally have been there. I know
seen the people.
I know the guy that runs it.
Yeah.
I've been in the homes. I've done the home visits.
Yeah.
I've done pastoral care with those home visits, and have helped. And so I know what is being done and how the money is being spent, and I trust it. So we send money to help these children be educated, to be taught the gospel, to buy them shoes, so that one day they can go to college and they can better themselves. And that's all well and good. But if I don't have money for my own children,
you'll stop.
I will stop.
Yeah.
That will stop before I stop buying my children shoes.
Right.
Or before I stop buying my children the things that they need.
Yeah. So specifically this verse, there's two categories that we need to think about. This verse is not about national policy on immigration.
Yeah.
This verse is about personal compassion to those that have been brought.
Those that are under your authority sphere.
Yeah, that I can take care of. And so as we think about, you said the order of loves here. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my family. I love my church. I love my community. I have an obligation because of those natural affections and proximity to me, that I don't have that same love for somebody who is, far away or whatever. So I'm going to take care of my own first. So if I were to see and shut my ear to the cry of the poor in my community, then that's a problem for me personally. But as a national policy, we must have justice, and I love justice.
Yep.
And I see the need for justice. And when you break my laws as a nation, then there are consequences for that. And I just want to point out, no one who's being deported will not be fed on their way out.
Yep.
Will not be taken care of, not have bathroom, not have shower, not be in any of those kind of things. You're taken care of, and then you're.
We won't be packing them 100 deep in tractor trailers, sending them home like they came over here.
Oh, wow. That's exactly right.
We will be shipping
We
them
will
back.
send them away in a compassionate way, but it may not feel fun for you because you got picked up in an ICE raid in Chicago.
Yep.
And you've been living illegally. Most of these guys too, the ones that the worst of them, they're bringing in drugs, they're rapists, they're
100%.
They're
100%.
They've fathered multiple children with multiple women. It's
and
get out of here.
And a large percentage of them are living off of our welfare.
Exactly.
Which is meant to take care of our own people.
Our own people, not them.
And so now we have our welfare system is collapsing under its own weight because we're taking care of people that aren't our people.
Yeah.
It's just, these things just don't work.
No.
And so we need to have compassion. We need to be gentle. We don't need to be running around and, shooting illegals or, whatever. We don't need to be getting angry and wanting their harm and wanting to kill them or things like that.
Yeah.
But we need to enact justice. We need to do what is right. You've seen the graph where it's the two targets, and the heat signature shows how conservatives view those that they most care about versus liberals. And with liberals, it's way out way over here. And the reason for that is that the conservatives have a grounding in a biblical worldview more than liberals. And this is why it's one of the reasons it's unbiblical to vote Democrat when it is biblical to vote Republican or right-leaning, even though there's compromises.
Right.
Because there's a biblical underpinning. And so this is we need to recapture this even more, that I have a much greater responsibility to the folks in Appalachia that got destroyed by a hurricane than I do any illegal immigrant from anywhere in the world.
Yep.
I have a greater responsibility to them because they are my people.
So let's just talk about what happens when you do deport and you're showing your hand that this is what we will do. Now the flow of illegal immigrants, and they're like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. That I've got to solve my problem here in my own country, as opposed to thinking that my problem can be solved if I get to America.
Yep.
And suddenly, because that's been eliminated, suddenly there's a whole plethora of different solutions that come about for that person, that oppressed family, their kids, everything, that father, he's trying to figure out for his family where he's locally at. That's what he should have been doing before he ever entered into America. But because America seemed like an easy target to him that he could break their laws to get into, we've just reset, and we're educating and we're teaching the world to say, no, you will solve your problem there. You know, if you want to come to America, there's a path to come to America currently.
Yep.
And I agree with you. I think I should cut off all foreign aid. We should cut off all immigration, legal and illegal. And we should just kind of reset and really see who we are and what we need to be, and get our house in order before we open those things back up. That's
not to say those things are bad.
No.
Foreign aid, I'm all for it. We've just got to do a reset and figure out where we're at. Because we are not. There are literally people starving, and we're sending money to fund trans clinics. Where was that? We funded trans clinics.
Pakistan. There's that. There was some gay play in Ireland that we were.
Well, here's what's coming out. We're getting off topic again. We're funding all these gay parades, all these pride parades all over the world in these weird places, and everybody's like, "Wow, they're having gay pride parades in Ethiopia," and it's like, "Yeah, we're funding them."
Our immigration policy is not based off of off of being compassionate. It's based upon the laws that we need to have. I mean, being compassionate to the stranger. We have to have borders. We have to have walls. We have to have structure in order to maintain our geographic and cultural identity and nationhood that we have. And then there's a way to come in. If you want to become an American and you're going to renounce your citizenship, come in here. And then God sovereignly is moving people around. We have people in our community, a lot of Guatemalans, a lot of Mexicans, those kind of stuff. We want to share the gospel with them because I'm a Christian. And I know that there are people that the world is coming to America. So this one way that evangelism happens. But America, we can't conflate that and just say, let's not have borders, let's not have structure or legal thing in order for us to share the gospel. I think it's the conflict that Christians find themselves in.
It's insanity.
Yeah, and that's just, we've got to be able to think in categories.
Well, and part of the problem is the way that, and people don't like this, but people groups naturally segregate. So I can tell you where the Mexican parts of Shelbyville are.
Sure.
Frankly, bluntly, I can tell you where the black parts of Shelbyville are. And so, or Louisville, it's like everyone knows where those sections are. Yeah. And that's not by force.
I can tell you where the Cartwrights live.
Exactly. But there's a natural segregation of peoples that happens. And so is that bad? And the question becomes, if it's not bad, you end up with competing groups within a system, within what should be cohesive. Now it's not cohesive.
Yeah.
Because you've got the Mexican part of town and this black part of town and the white part of town and the Asian part of town, all this stuff. Doesn't seem to be a problem with Asians, but anyway, I don't want to get too far into that. But how do you deal with that? How do you deal with competing groups? How do you deal with, well, we're kind of our own thing over here? And it's like, no, if we're going to be Americans, we need to actually be Americans, and we need to have assimilation. We need to have cohesion.
Yep.
And so this is why we are a low trust society now. because there's so many different groups that identify as different. You're talking about the people waving the Mexican flags. They still identify as Mexican.
Yeah.
Or Hispanic or, Guatemalan, whatever it is.
Get out of my country.
Get out. If you identify as American,
that's different.
My grandmother on my mother's side, her grandfather, or maybe great-grandfather, his name was Giuseppe Megaletti Revedito. He was Italian.
Say that again.
Giuseppe Megaletti Revedito.
Okay.
He immigrated over on a banana boat. And this is a long time ago, but way after the Cartwrights came. Yeah. But so he was Italian, as you may have guessed. But within a couple generations, there's literally no Italian spoken by anybody in our family.
Yeah.
So my great-grandmother, Julia Carr, spoke no Italian.
Yeah.
Now, she could make homemade lasagna and homemade raviolis.
It's the only cultural identity that needs to stay with them is your cuisine.
Bro.
Keep it.
We have
stop speaking Italian.
We have the recipes. But she spoke zero. I mean, that's 2 generations. She spoke zero Italian, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Nothing. And so they identified, they came over and it wasn't like, well, we're Italian. And you had this problem with the mafia or the mobs or the gangs.
Yeah.
You'd have the Italians and versus the Irish, and you'd have all these gangs, and they've maintained their separate identities, or the Germans. That's not good.
That's not helpful.
It's not helpful. If you're going to be American, we need to be Americans, and we need to give up those former identities.
We know Latino families and stuff like that ethnically but they're Americans.
Oh yeah,
and they're seeking to be Americans, and they love America, and they're raising their children to be American. And those kids, they don't even speak Spanish.
Oh no, I got it. There's a young boy that works for me part time whenever he can, or he's still in school, but. And he's very Hispanic. I mean, you look at him, he looks like he just, came straight from, Mexico. He talks more Southern than I do.
Yeah.
Like, he was born here. He has he doesn't identify with Mexico at all.
I've seen this with adopted kids, like they've been adopted from the Philippines or whatever. They've come and they don't speak those languages anymore. They look a certain way, but they're Kentucky.
Yeah,
they're American.
So
and I think that's right. That's what it should be.
It is right, and it doesn't mean that you're completely disregarding or giving up the idea of your heritage. My heritage is English.
Mine's German.
I can trace Cartwrights back all the way into the 1370s.
Yeah.
Okay, near Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Northeast of Yorkshire is a little town, Cartwright. Boom, it's where they came from. That's part of my heritage, but I don't consider myself English.
Right.
Okay, I consider my heritage as English or, Anglo-European or whatever.
Yeah, that's different.
Yes, but I'm American. My children are American. We have been here at least 10 generations.
Yeah.
At least I can trace 10 generations of Cartwrights on this continent, on this soil, this nation. So anyway, we've got to be able to have cohesion. So,
so we're separating 2 categories.
Huge.
Category
topic.
1 is the nation, how it should govern itself, how it should structure itself, how it should protect itself.
Yep.
And that's why we must have mass deportations, because we've had mass illegal immigration.
Yep.
Now we need mass deportations. And then as a Christian, yes, I recognize the sovereignty of God. If people have come into our land illegally, legally, whatever, I'm going to share the gospel with them. I want to reach out to them. I want to minister to them, but I'm not going to set aside the laws of my nation in order to protect that. These are 2 separate categories.
Yep.
And so I don't want to let them interfere with one another.
Yeah. Until the laws of the nation contradict what God has said.
Which it doesn't.
We obey those laws.
Which it doesn't.
Yes.
If we look through the scriptures, we see that immigration and people coming into the nation of Israel, as an example, were allowed to do that, provided that they did it. But if there was an invader, they would be killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
And so we're not killing people.
David had a responsibility to care for the poor and the needy, as it says in the passage. David, as the king, had that responsibility.
Yeah.
But if he was invaded, he wasn't worried about the poor and needy of the invaders.
No, you've invaded me. You're illegally here.
Yes.
Yeah.
He wasn't shipping them back. He wasn't shipping them back on planes. He was killing them.
He would kill them.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that because we're compassionate, and we're going to
humanely
give you crackers on the plane as you go.
We don't need to do that because we are strong enough that it's not a threat at this point.
No.
We don't have to.
U.S. military does not get involved in actually.
Not with guns anyway.
Eradicate. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've He's mixed up the pot on this one.
Yeah, that was a mess of snakes.
And this might bring up some questions, and I'd love to hear them, especially 100%. As we think about, I mean, we've got a challenge. We would love to plant a Spanish-speaking church, and I know this is something we've got to be thoughtful about and want to sit down with brothers that are in that community to help us think through these things, because we may not be thinking about all the right issues here. And so we want to make sure as we do that we have a thoughtful policy and plan in place, because this is the kind of stuff that could potentially happen.
Well, and none of this minimizes my desire to start a Spanish church or to do Spanish evangelism.
Or to learn Spanish and be able to speak with people. I want to be able to communicate with them. All right, if you've got a question for us, snakeonthetable.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom, anonymous form, fill it out, and we'd love to engage with it.
Yep. God bless.